We're going to talk about uh we're going to talk about weighing food because that seems to be something that's quite commonly recommended when it comes to like losing weight.
For sure. I think this is very topical because you've got the Paris Olympics happening about now. And
Mm.
I'm thinking about that because when people ask me, oh, matey, do I need to weigh my food? The analogy that I use sometimes is, hey, look, if you were an Olympic athlete, potentially I'd say, hey, we need to get to the detail. Like we need to know, I need to know like what's happening for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. We need to know how much calories are coming in, how much protein, because I want you to be the absolute best, right? You're maybe the 0.01% of the population. And that might make the difference between first place and a medal, like gold medal, and maybe not getting on the podium at all. Sometimes it's just like a literally a split second. And you have to look at every variable like sleep and whatever else, right? But but if you're just average person, just wanting to feel a little bit better, look a little bit better, then do you really need to weigh your food? So yeah, we can talk about that for sure.
I would say like you know what it is? I've said a lot that you don't need to, but I do it. I'm not actually a competitor or an elite athlete, and even like you guys can like go look on my Instagram and look at my pictures. I'm not even in like the most amazing shape in the world, but I weigh my food. I weigh my food. I don't need to, but is it a very effective way of managing your calorie and nutrition intake? Yeah, I'd say it is. Um, I think the not needing to thing is some people will find it a bit of a hassle. I don't because I'm kind of like, good route. Like it's for me, it's second nature to do it. Like literally just the kitchen scale is there. I just pop it on the counter, put my bowl or plate on top or whatever, and then I just have to add the ingredients as I would. So it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Like all I'm doing is like putting something underneath the plate or the bowl or the board and pressing a button. Um, so I don't personally find it massively inconvenient. Is it a like, I've increased my accuracy. I'm now managing my food intake a lot better. And I'll say when I am weighing my food, the periods of time that I'm weighing my food, my body composition, the way that I look is usually better than times when I'm not. Doesn't mean that you need to.
Yeah, I think what you've touched on is really important though. You said it's like second nature to me. So for you, it's a relatively easy task, right? You don't need to think about it so much. And I would say like it's a skill, like any skill. When it's something that you've never done and you suck, it's tedious, it's hard, and for a lot of people, that's a big barrier to like building the skill, right? So for me, for example, when I first started tracking my food, the first 2, 3 weeks, I made a lot of mistakes. It was frustrating. I'm like, oh man, this is incorrect on my fitness pal, and oh maybe I'm traveling or whatever, and I don't actually have a. Sometimes you don't have a barcode on food, and you don't know like how to do things, right? So there's a
Mm.
big like learning curve. But once you've acquired this skill, then it becomes much easier. But for a lot of people, they do the first week and they're like, do you know what? Like it's too much. I've already got my life stresses, I've got work, I've got relationships, I've got whatever else. And then there's this other thing that's stressing me out. So I can see how for some people, even though they don't, even though they don't necessarily like need to do it, even though it's a useful skill to have, they might be like, oh, do you know what? I don't want to do that.
No, what's interesting about that is I've never actually come across anybody doing anything else. Like we talk about portion sizes and using your hand and whatever, blah 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 blah. But I've never actually met anybody doing that, and I've never actually come across anybody doing that. And I've been coaching people for a long time, and I've done a lot of this with a lot of people. I've always done the food tracking and food weighing method. And I don't, every single person I work with isn't like a weight management individual. A lot of people I work with, especially nowadays, are more to do with strength, fitness, mobility, all of that kind of stuff. And, as long as their sort of general blood markers and well-being are okay, it's really neither here nor there as to whether they have a six pack or not. But in the cases where it has been about like looking good and getting lean, have I really had anybody like do anything other than weigh their food and track? No. And whenever I do see successful outcomes, most of those individuals have had some period of weighing and tracking their food. So there's a baseline that they're running off, and maybe they've over time deviated from that baseline and they've added in like a bunch of junk food and extra stuff that they don't usually have. And then that's run for a period and then maybe gained weight and they said, oh, man, I want to lose some weight. I want to get leaner. And then all they've basically done is then they've taken up the stuff that they kind of added on top. But it all still started from I was weighing my food and I was tracking it on an app, even if that was like 7 years ago. So they have some rough idea of how many calories and how much protein and how much carbohydrates and how much fats and all the different things that they eat, or they
I
look
think
it
it's
up
so
at least.
interesting. So go for it.
No, go on.
I think it's so interesting that you say that. I'm surprised to be honest that you'd say like all of your clients, this is what they've done. Personally, I've had quite a few clients, mostly the ones that were really overweight or obese. I've had a lot of success not tracking calories at all, and we really focused on A, increasing protein intake, so that's been a big one, and B, increasing fiber intake, so a lot more vegetables, a lot more fruits for snacks. And that's been really the main focus. So lots of protein, lots of fiber, and anything else, you can keep doing whatever you want for the most part, but I find people are finding that much easier to implement and they do see a result. Now, don't get me wrong, those really like overweight and obese clients, they haven't reached like a healthy weight by society standards, by the norms, but still they manage to lose 10, 15 kilos, which is still significant. Will they probably need to learn the skill of like tracking food at some point? Probably I'll say yes, just to increase their awareness of, okay, this is how much calories is in food. But even now, even as they focus on just like increasing their protein intake and increasing their fiber, there's still an element of, okay, I need to look at the back of the packaging. I need to know how much protein is in this thing. So there is still a level of awareness that's happening.
I would agree that I think for a lot of people that works. It definitely helps someone get started.
Mm,
And if they're losing 10, 15 kilos, that's pretty amazing, right? Even if you're like a 100 kilo person, or even a 120 kilo person, that's a big drop in weight. And that's going to go like quite far in terms of improving your health and your aesthetic. I'm the tracking and the weighing is definitely more effective.
mm,
And all the people that I've said that maybe I'm not doing like the weight management stuff with, they're probably people that I wouldn't necessarily ask to like, track their food and weigh their food because I kind of already know that that's not what they're going to do.
mm.
That's probably why we never really have that conversation. Instead, yeah, if they did want to have a conversation about making better food choices, then we would have that conversation and it would kind of go similar to the ones you're probably having, and we would be looking to increase their sort of like fruit and vegetable and protein intake. And then as a byproduct, yeah, they would probably start to make better choices overall. Their energy and well-being should improve. Because I think the main thing that tends to happen, my observation is people make poor food choices when they're tired. You don't wake up and eat a tub of Ben and Jerry's. You don't wake up and eat a Five Guys burger and fries. That all happens at the end of the day.
Mm.
And it's pretty obvious that at the end of the day, relative to the beginning of the day, you're more tired and therefore more likely going to make those decisions. So if we can reduce people's fatigue, increase their sense of well-being, then yeah, they're less likely to end the day like eating whatever indulgent fun things that are super easy to consume in high amounts, high calories. So in that case, yeah, you probably want to start the conversation with like, how do we improve your well-being? Here's foods that are nutritious that you enjoy that you can have throughout the day. Um, Obviously sleep, stress, hydration, blah blah blah. But there's a point where I would still want somebody to weigh and track just to learn. But yeah, I'm not going to have that conversation with everybody. And so it's very context dependent to the individual. I think anybody watching this video, based on the thumbnail and the title, they're probably going to be a little bit more interested in, kind of looking like you. And so I would more encourage and push that individual towards weighing and tracking and learning and putting in the effort to like know nutrition well enough to create the outcome where they do start looking like their version of you. Um, if you are quite overweight and unwell and you find tracking and weighing a chore, then yeah, um, in starting to eat more nutritiously and get healthier is probably an amazing first step.
And I know I might sound like a detractor, so I'm not against, weighing your food and tracking calories and stuff. It's something that I've done for a long time. I still do it to this day, as you know. So this is kind of how I get in shape for contests. And for those who think, well, if I'm not getting, like you were saying, if I'm not getting in shape for a contest, do I need to do that? No, but it's still a very useful tool. And like I said, because as I might sound like I'm against doing those things, I'm not. If anything, I'm a big proponent. And if it were up to me, I think everybody should learn this skill at the very least. Because for me, when I first started tracking, I go back to my experience. Like it was enlightening. When I scanned, I think it was a muffin or something like that. And I thought, oh, it's not a big deal. It's just a muffin. It was like 300 calories. And I was mind blown. Like 300 calories in just a muffin versus if I put in my fitness pal, okay, if I have broccoli and chicken, I can have in terms of volume a ton more broccoli, a ton more chicken, and that's going to keep me full versus the muffin that's like, oh, well, probably the next half an hour I'll be hungry again. It's like, but yes, the muffin is tastes amazing, but what do I get versus say the broccoli and chicken?
Yeah.
So yeah, for me it was huge. It was a revelation. Genuinely, this is what tracking did for me. So this is why I would encourage most people to at least try it out for a couple of weeks just to get a picture of, okay, this is what calories mean, this is what protein is, this is what carb is, and this is how your body kind of reacts to it.
I mean, that is like very nail on the head. The process and that journey, like, and I remember my earlier stages of suddenly discovering like how many calories are in like really small things, and you're like, what the hell? Like, um, dates, these tiny little things, and I can't even remember off the top of my head, but it was kind of like one date was like 80 calories or something like that. And it's very easy to kind of eat like, 10 of them or whatever. Cashews, I can go through a whole pack, but then I've consumed like 1,200 calories extra in literally under 7 minutes, right? And still not be feeling like I probably still have room for more. Probably, yeah, and I think that's probably one of the main. You've really, really hit the nail on the head. That's probably the main thing I think is the benefit of tracking in weight is for people to really get an awareness of how much they're actually consuming. So it's like knowing the cost, like going into a shop and saying, "Oh, okay, I want that thing over there. I want to buy that phone, that iPhone," not knowing how much it costs, right? Already pre-signing the contract, not knowing the cost, and then them turning around and saying to you, right, that's going to be £85 a month, whereas your budget was £40 a month, and you're like, wait, what? How? How am I now supposed to afford to pay for that £85 a month contract? And I'm like, well, it's 24 months. You've signed it now. There's no refund. So that's what happens a lot of the time when we eat stuff and we don't know the calorie and nutritional content of it. And then afterwards it's like, oh crap, that was more than I could actually afford to consume. So yeah, and that you've made a really solid argument there for why somebody should weigh and track. And you also made a very good argument earlier about why it might not necessarily be the best starting place for people that are overweight. Amazing. Well, I'm going to give you a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Not like I do this for a living, you know?
You smashed that one out of the park. May Day. Get the name right. Man. Okay, cool. Anything to add on that?
No, I like to keep things simple, you know. I don't think we need to make it any more complex than what it is. There is more like minutia to it, but I think just having a general understanding of the topic, I think is good. I think we've covered it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay, wicked. Guys, if you got any questions on any of that or you want us to talk a little bit more about anything, uh, comments below, like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. You already know what it is. And hopefully you found this useful. We'll definitely be back with more of these videos. And yeah, if you've got suggestions for things that you want us to talk about or questions you want us to answer, again, comments below. You can find our Instagram handles in the description and reach out to us there as well if you want to. Cool.
Peace out.